then the council and Mr. Toy would have a chance to ask questions. The second part would be that you would have an opportunity to present. Do you have anyone else who's going to?
I don't.
Okay. Or no one else that represents you. So present, and then again, the council and the officer would have the opportunity to ask questions. This is a civil proceeding, civil not in terms of litigation, but in terms of behavior. So, this is a conversation. Yes, that everyone is respectful in allowing people to finish talk and not become argumentative about an issue. I've had some correspondence with Jim Clevenger asking about the criteria for, what are we really deciding this evening? The ordinance itself is not up for discussion. So whether it's right or wrong, or the issues with it are not at play here this evening. It's basically do the facts and the circumstances warrant the issuance of the ordinance, and then is, to phrase it crudely, but is the punishment commensurate with the crime, or is the fine commensurate with the violation? And so the council's issue and discussion are not about the ordinance itself, or about the officer's discretion in what he decided to do based upon the circumstances. Does that seem kosher to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know, when were you going to testify or any testimony? No. Okay. So Karen, could I ask that you just do a preliminary swearing in?
Stand and raise your hands. Yeah, I guess, is it okay if I swear everybody in at the same time?
Oh, sure.
Okay. And are you gonna speak or? You're good.
Sure.
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
No.
So if you raise your right hand, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you.
I just want you to.
Okay. And again, I think, are we recording this one too, Karen?
It's recording.
Okay, all right. So it asked that people out of respect turn off cell phones, whether you're in the room or online or any other devices. I guess unless there anything else, I could ask, Officer, would you like to explain in your words the narrative on what happened, when it occurred?
Yes. I was doing my shift meeting for pre-work with Chief Wayne Bean. Also present was Bill Clevenger. I was facing north, away from the window, and Bill had pointed out the violation. And there went one, I believe he said. I turned around, I saw the female passenger holding the little girl right there. I left the coffee shop, went in my patrol car, made the stop from the elementary school, right next to Mr. Corey's house. Explained the violation, the beginning of ticket for it. Wrote the citation and left.
Date and time, just in terms of placing this. What was the date on this?
April 5/10 p.m.
Yep.
Thank you. Yes. It's from council. Bill?
No.
Bill?
Mhm.
And you recuse
I've
yourself?
killed myself.
Karen, did you have any? Thank you. Roy?
Officer Zerby, I mean, from what I understand how the situation unfolded, said everything that, that I was gonna say. From our perspective, the part that I guess bugs or bothers me, or us, I should say, is the decision-making power that Officer Zerby had when he's in the room with two superiors. And his ability to judge whether the situation is warranted of pulling us over and giving us a citation when he's in the presence of his superior officer and the town council president, as it was said. That from my perspective, that seems to me somewhat of an undue influence. I know if I was in a room with principal and superintendent and something like that was brought up, I would act that way. I want to add that Officer Zerby was more than polite. And I believe he informed us that, or I know he informed us that, and we committed the violation in front of the town council president. And that played a factor in the stop. And from that perspective, I mean, we discussed last meeting that, the ordinance, and I guess I came prepared today to talk more about the ordinance itself, which, Mr. West, as you said, that's not the topic of the day. I was kind of hoping we wouldn't even, I could convince the board that we wouldn't even have to go this far with this, but I mean, the last thing that I want to do is make this me versus Culver Police Department or for that matter, the Culver Town Council. I would have preferred to just argue how we were acting in the best interest of our family and out of necessity. We made that decision as parents. And I actually wrote down kind of an opening remark, and it was the biggest thing that I'm fighting for is that I feel like it's my right as a father and my right as a parent to do what's best to keep my family safe. And I refuse to be punished for that. And that's why we've even gotten this far, because I don't want that power to be taken away from me. And with the ordinance, the way it reads, it is almost like we are being required to, by law, put our daughter in an unsafe situation. And so, as I said, everything that Officer Zerby said was correct. I think he hit the nail on the head from that side. And as I said, from my side, it seemed like there was, my question was, what type of influence did that have on his decision-making power, and whether or not he would have, gotten up and as I have here, it's a small town. I understand, people are going to talk with each other, and people are going to, I mean, I've seen all three of these gentlemen at the coffee shop many times, and there's no issue there. It's not a, what were you doing there type of situation. It was a, let's take Bill out of the equation. Had Bill been there, would we have $150 citation? Had Bill not been there? I'm not sure if we would, to be honest with you, especially with Officer Zerby with his back to the window. We might have squeaked by. I don't know if that makes it right. I'm not sure if guilt is a factor. I just know that with this, with the way that things unfolded, kind of lit a fire underneath me. And as I said, I tried to fight it every way I could. I was hoping to be able to not have to get to this point, but here we are. Okay. Yeah.
Any questions for Mr. Croy? Bill?
No.
No. No. There's no audience participation. It's open to the public, but this is, there's.
I just like to know what the ordinance says.
Okay. It's available online, and we can give you a copy of it.
Mr. West, can I address that for a second?
Sure.
I actually brought this was back to when I was trying to talk about the ordinance more than anything. And this, I think this is relevant even in this situation. I printed one of these off for everybody. So the top page is the current ordinance. Second page is our ordinance on. Second page is the ordinance on online. And Mr. West, if you would do me the favor, you don't have to, I understand. If you would, could you go to the town council website and figure out where to get ordinances from?
Sure. I pulled it up earlier today. You do a search at the townofculver.org. Think in the upper right-hand corner. For golf order.
It says ordinances, and then it gives you a link to the code library of all the ordinances.
I don't know if all the ordinances are there because I put in the top start search. I after our conversation,
Right.
in fact, just prior to it, I think as I told you at the last meeting, I pulled it up. Found it online.
Yeah. So the ordinance,
In the codified code of ordinances, that is not updated with this ordinance currently,
right,
but there is in documents, there's a listing of ordinances where you can find the ordinance, and you can also search in the top, and there's a page on golf cart registration, which I'm assuming that you're gonna drop with something.
Right, well, the biggest thing that I wanted to address was the same ordinance is on there twice, written two different ways, that would actually play a factor. On the library, as I frequently refer to it, it said that while the vehicle was in operation, and for some reason, I don't seem to have the other one with me. I have it in my notes. Let's grab it. Yeah.
Are you referring to ordinance 2021-008 and then 2020-006?
No, 2020, 2018, 17-017 and
Okay.
2021-008. And they read two different ways,
They were,
but it's still presented on the website as being part of the ordinance. Here is what the website reads. If you go to ordinances and it presents, I've taken the liberty of highlighting that for everyone. It says while operating the vehicle versus while the vehicle is in operation. Now I'm in favor of the more updated version, what has been my recommendation for what, for what has occurred. But as far as our town publishing two documents that are contradictory of each other, as a citizen, and this has probably little effect on this case, that we are presenting, we're saying, here's where to go to get ordinances. You go to that ordinance, it says something different than what the actual past updated ordinance says.
That day, you looked up golf carts.
Sort of one at a time.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I have to be.
No, that's okay.
Just so we don't get into a
Yeah.
round table on this.
So as you can see there, the last sentence says, of the ordinance that's online, which is the last paper I handed out, and adult passengers are not to hold children on their lap while operating the vehicle, versus the ordinance reading, and adult passengers or drivers are not to hold passengers on their lap while the vehicle is in operation. So just for reference, my daughter was not on my lap while I was operating the vehicle. She was on my wife's lap in the passenger seat.
Any questions for Mr. Floyd? Anything else?
I have a question on where these reside on the website. You guys are a lot more familiar with it than I am, but
so what Mr. Card pulled off for the second part is part of the codified ordinances. And that's listed under so when you go, you can see if you go into town hall, Culver Code of Ordinances, you can go there on the first front page. So that's something I do every other year, just to get it in. So on the front page, it says Culver Local Ordinance, current through October 2018, 2000, or through ordinance 2017. I'm gonna take.
No, you're.
So that's where that is. So then the other way to get to the most current document is if you can type in search is probably the easiest way. And then it shows the most recent two amended. Obviously, the most recent one is 2021. You can also get to it.
Documents page 10.
Yes,
and then
and you can go to documents and look at ordinances, and then it lists up the ordinances. So here, you would go here.
Mhm.
And then it has ordinances. And you can go through and look. So this is a little more cumbersome to look other than just typing in
Right.
search.
my only issue is that
I need to finish my question.
Oh, yes, sorry.
No problem. So is there any place on the main website where most people would enter into the portal that explains this issue of redundant but not really identical web pages that talk about regulations?
So there's one.
To give the, the citizen with the guidance.
Mhm. So there's one page which I think Hannah will probably bring up, but there's a golf cart registration page, which I think
Yeah, I think
that's the one
yeah.
that you guys went to.
I just typed in golf cart rules on the golf cart registration page. But
Yeah, so on the golf cart registration page, because we have so many people coming in, there's just. Like, there's a golf cart registration, there's an actual page where we outline basically the process of obtaining your registration.
So is that,
When the
that's
rules,
on the left?
it's on the left, it's up here, yeah.
So is that the only golf cart thing that's on the homepage? So is
Accessible from the
intuitively are
homepage.
people pointed to this to learn about golf carts?
I don't know if it's intuitive or not, but if you're searching for it, and there's two different ways, you go in the search bar, it brings up.
Yep.
You go to this, if you're looking under services, this is what comes up. So on this page, we gave instructions on how to obtain your golf cart registration, because that's one of the
Right.
many calls that we get.
Mhm.
At the bottom of it, it says, there's a golf cart registration form, and then we put, this may have come after, but it says please consult the full ordinance for complete listing of the rules. So, and I believe I sent an email out to you after Hannah had come in and raised the issue
Mhm.
and explained kind of what had happened and what changes I had made to that page. So, and if you remember, yes, so on that page, I'm probably making Hannah's case for her, but I'm being honest. I mean, this is what happened.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know what, when you have a lot of details and you have a website,
Mhm.
it's hard to manage all of it, which I'm sure
That's, yeah, with the schools.
deal with it too. So we had reminders in order to operate a golf cart in Culver.
Mhm.
And it was no driving or parking on sidewalks. Golf carts may not carry more passengers than it's equipped to handle. Drivers must be 16 or older. Operators must follow all of their standard motor vehicle laws. The golf cart must have a slow moving vehicle sign. All passengers must be in a primary seated position while in motion. And if operated at night, there should be a coach with looking turn signals, headlights and taillights. And it had passengers must be 36 inches or taller. That was what was on the website.
There's nothing about seatbelts and.
No, so after Hannah had come in and raised the issue, I did add passengers who must be 36 inches or taller, and adult drivers or passengers are not to hold passengers on their lap while this vehicle is in operation. And then I also added a link to the full ordinance on that page.
Okay.
So I believe that's the page that they
Yeah, so
consulted
that's that, yeah.
and where they got that
Yeah.
information.
No, I
But
can
then-
appreciate how difficult it is to keep everything in sync.
Yes, so we were trying to
It's very difficult.
get as much information out to the public as possible,
Yeah.
but
So Bill, was your question then answered with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Justin, do you have a?
Just kind of on top of that, my thing was that if you go to, I believe it's the town hall and then or services tab, I think it's more town hall. It says call for code of ordinances.
Right.
And when you
Yes.
click on call for code of ordinances,
then it,
you have to do some investigation to
Yes.
get to the fact that that's not a current ordinance. If I wouldn't have known that after the fact that 2021 8008 was passed, I would still be looking saying, I would have had to look in the small print and see that this was passed in 2017 or 2018. Had I not known about the other law, wouldn't have gone there. So my thing is, we're presenting this as here's the town code. It's not really the town code, because really our town code's at the bottom of the page in documents, and you kind of got to know what's there in order to get to the town code.
And you borrowed this card.
So yes, right. I didn't get the cart registered. No. It wasn't our cart.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Bright?
Mine was just, yeah, what Karen had said was, when we looked at the golf cart rules, it said 36 inches, and that's why he was not with us. He stayed at home with grandma, and she's 36 inches, so that's why she was with us, and the lap rule wasn't on there, and so I thought I think that's what I said when the officer came up. I said, no, she's 36 inches, like, that's what I thought we were getting pulled over for, but, so, yeah, those were the rules that we looked up when we went that evening. That's why he went with us, but she was. Just wanted some ice cream.
Any other questions from council?
Mhm.
Rick, do you want to make any final or closing statement?
I don't think so. I mean, thank you for your time. I understand coming in at 5:30 extra time and
I mean, I think all of us appreciate the concern about children in golf carts. That's why it's been modified and changed so many times, is as, you know, different situations occur, as different information comes forward. And we're not talking about the ordinance changing today, but I'm confident that your input will circulate among the council as we look at this ordinance again. So.
can I add one more thing? I'm sorry. This kind of is a side note. I do have a pretty interesting, this is a research article about the safety features of golf carts, and specifically it's about children and what the injuries, most likely things are to happen. And if anybody's wondering, it's getting thrown out of the left side on a left-hand or the right side on a left-hand turn. But it's, I'm gonna leave, I know we discussed it, so I'll leave this here, and that it's an interesting read. That's all.
Maybe you don't think about unless you have kids.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Questions or comments from council? Bill?
Well, to your point, I'd like to revisit this ordinance. See if it's really stated the way we want it. But I don't know. I've been thinking about this. You put car seats in the golf cart.
Yeah, but what,
This
this is the ordinance is.
Yeah, I
is
know.
not- I understand what you're saying.
So I'm looking forward to that, but I have nothing else on this case.
Officer, Jeremy, did you have anything otherwise you wanted to say?
No, I'm not a fan of children being on the carts at all without any kind of safety features. Like to say that for a later date. Being 36 inches, she's still too small, in my opinion. My own personal opinion, but as far as anything else goes, this is all I have. This is which I understand is your father's, correct?
My mom's.
Yes. It's the rules and regulations that she receives with every tag. And then, you know, that's what I get upset about is when people borrow carts from people, they don't really understand the rules, but I mean, who does that fall onto then? Be the person who's given permission to allow the golf cart to be taken without explaining the rules further. So
Send it to her, and she'll pay it.
that's what I usually offer people. I tell people, hey, I understand you get the rules. You can go after your person you got it from civilly, because they didn't explain it with just letting you take the golf cart. But so that's all I really have to it.
All right. Karen, did you have anything else that you want to add or comment on? Okay, so do I have any motions or words of wisdom from council members on this? Again, our consideration is not changing the ordinance. I think that there's you know, is there, I think I would suggest the three questions are, you know, does the ordinance exist and was there a violation? I think it seems in my mind, at least by observation and actual admission, you know, that the child was being held while the golf cart was operating. The second question is, you know, and not as a criticism of Karen, but, you know, how readily available is this? And again, I found it, but because I've done other searches on the town website and don't go to the search bar and ask for golf cart ordinances and read the top of it that says, you know, this one updated, the one from 2018 and the one from what it was 2007 or something like that. And that's, you know, it's clearly listed in there. And I suggest the third question is the punishment for the crime. It's the, and the ordinance calls for the first violation being $150 fine. You know, after a third violation, then privileges can be revoked.
So as I recall, when I got mine golf cart, I got a list of rules printed and given to me with the permit sticker. Is that correct?
I believe so.
That's the registration
Yep.
form.
Yeah,
Yep.
but that's, and,
And we tell people to keep it with their card,
um,
but we can't.
No, I understand.
yeah.
We can't.
Yeah, they don't, yeah, you
No,
know.
no, that's a summary document. It's not the ordinance.
No, it's actually the ordinance is on there.
It has-
It's pretty detailed.
Okay, very good. Pull it up beforehand. But I walked in with it. So, sorry. I don't know.
Okay, excellent.
Sorry.
Well, the ordinance certainly exists. So you want these items separately? Or how do you want these? You had three
All right,
items.
do we think that there was a violation of the ordinance as it exists? It would be my first question to the three council members who are voting on this,
Yes,
Yes.
and I would concur. Okay. Do we think that it was adequately, I don't know how to phrase this correctly, but do you think that the information was readily available? Or should have, was the information, was it reasonable to expect that an operator have this information or know this information? Somebody want to rephrase that?
I think it's reasonable.
Okay.
I would have told them or shown them the rules.
They got the rules, but you know, if you go to the website and go digging, you know, how many people go digging? That's.
Yeah.
My question. I mean, what they got was accurate.
So there's, I don't know.
All right. And then I guess the third question, and I'm open to other questions or suggestions on this, but is, you know, does the fine fit the violation and the circumstances involved here?
My opinion, it fits the violation, but, maybe not the circumstances.
That's a good way of putting it. I agree with Bill.
So are you suggesting that the fine be tempered based upon the circumstances?
Well, I look at it I look at the fine being one of three things. Full fine of 150, no fine, or half fine of 75.
Okay.
And I think you X out the no fine. So then I think you either do 150 or 75. I think that's,
Cut it in half.
I think cutting it in half.
So it's,
Okay.
here,
My recommendation is to cut it in half.
I second.
is there any further discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion before the floor of reducing the fine by 50%? Please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries.
Motion carries. Fines reduced by 50%. We appreciate your following the process. We appreciate you enforcing it and, you know, protecting the safety of our citizenry is your primary responsibility. I think you take that seriously and you do it well. So,
I want to thank
Thank
you
you.
for your presentation. I thought it was very well done. You've done your homework, you know, much more so than you probably did on the front end. And you're probably not like everybody else in this town, you know, until you get caught and you start digging, do you really realize where it all is? And part of that is a problem to navigate. And you may be a better navigator than a lot of the people.
Yeah, I agree. I felt you were very organized.
Yeah.
And probably the best presentation I've heard from a citizen in that you tempered your tone. No emotion, just present facts. So thank you.
and I will share the research
Both of you are to be commended.
with everyone on the council. I'm fairly certain that we will take a look at this ordinance again. It's been revised 3 or 4 times. Each time, you know, as we get a little more aware of things, you know, seat belts, in fact, tangential, but I just talked to brother about putting seat belts in my golf course because of my grandkids. So we're over 4 foot, but they're still,
Right.
so.
But when the ordinance does come, when you guys do go to read it, is that like a public hearing to where we? can
Oh, yeah.
actually, like,
Oh,
Okay,
definitely.
okay.
It's not a public hearing, but it will be on
It'll be on the
board
agenda.
agenda.
Oh,
To say
okay,
this
okay.
is being discussed.
Yeah.
So
So
it's things that you don't think about until you're a parent or you have a little one this size and then you're like, oh, like, my doctor's office doesn't have changing tables in their bathroom. I don't understand that, but that's something I would never think about
The
until I heard it.
pediatrician.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a changing table in the bathroom.
So, but that's, okay,
but
that's
also sharing information.
okay, awesome.
Anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
They have, so sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No, this doesn't need to be part of the meeting or
Okay,
or you can take a look at this and there's some, they make actually some aftermarket things. I had a full presentation together, so my recommendation was actually rather than continue, restrict freedom, say absolutely zero, because if we want to go somewhere, we now have to get 2 people to watch the kids, which is even more. 36 to 48 inches seatbelt required, right? So that way we still have nobody sitting on laps.
Mhm.
And if you're gonna have a kid, you gotta have a seatbelt.
well, and I don't know if the seatbelts can accommodate a child safety seat or not, but I
Right.
believe that's
Right.
some of the information here, so. Thank
But you don't have to have a seatbelt to have a kid.
Right.
That's,
So what I actually had in mind.
That doesn't go in the minutes, please.
Well, we're still recording and we haven't adjourned the meeting yet, so.
I thought we did that.
I know, there
said
was a
so moved,
motion,
But
but
nobody seconded.
Okay, well, would you like to second it? Or would you rather put in your mouth?
I made the motion, no, you made the motion, somebody, I'll second.
it's,
I-
I'll second.
All those
Excuse me.
all those
I'll
in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Uh,
Thank you.